We saw the forest as, we see, not saw, we saw and see, the forest as an ecosystem. It's like our communities. It's very holistic. You can't just go in and plow it all down and grab the trees from it and say you're doing good for the earth. There's just no way.
People are just starting to understand the impact of their purchases and where they get things and how those things are brought to the product that they're looking for, right? And so I guess I would hope that we're turning the corner right now and that we raise awareness for everybody to start thinking about what are the raw materials, the natural resources that go into making this, in our case, a beautiful musical instrument.
You know, most musicians are really pretty passionate about conservation and are socially conscious, but they never really stop to think about the instrument that they're playing. They use it as a tool, but never consider where did the wood come from that built this guitar or mandolin. So that made us think as the front-facing point where we're actually in direct contact with the consumer or the musician, we're able to tell that story a little bit. We're able to kind of explain, hey, have you ever considered where the wood's come from that your guitar is built out of? We have a Shoppe Sustainable program now. If an instrument, we know that the manufacturer is sourcing their tone woods using a vendor that passes FSC standards, then we plant one tree. Every guitar that we sell, every guitar or mandolin, regardless, if it passes that standard, we're going to plant one tree. We use a charity called One Tree Planted, and for every $1 we donate, they plant a tree. We get to pick the region where they plant that. And any instrument that does not reach that standard that we're pushing for, we're going to plant 5 trees in place of that. And along with that, we send the customer home with some information on that to think of. We contact those manufacturers, and we're trying to get them up to that, at least that minimum threshold. And as we get more developed in this, we're going to keep raising that bar a little bit higher and higher until we have different thresholds of Shoppe Sustainable. But so far it's been great. We planted over 3,000, I think 3,700 trees around the world. And really we had a lot of consumers that say the same thing. We never really considered this. So we feel that we're taking one step further in pushing this mission.
When Tom asked to start understanding exactly where the woods are being harvested from and how they're being processed, we started a new journey for us with wood supply. It just started off with the relationships that we already had as far as the boots on the ground, the people that are actually processing the wood, asking them if they could share that information with us, and surprisingly they all had the information at hand. Nobody was asking those questions. Tom was really passionate about no clear-cut harvesting. And what that means is when they come in and just obliterate a whole plot of land and cut everything that's on that piece of property, really killing any opportunity for small growth to flourish. Everything had to start new. Every supplier that we work with, we are able to go meet with them. They take us into the forest so that we know exactly where the woods are coming from, and we see their processing firsthand. Fortunately, Tom is willing to jump on a plane and take an adventure anytime. So he's been a real champion for getting out there and doing diligence with the suppliers.
I remember one of my first trips, we were down in the Mayan biosphere in Guatemala. We had to hike way back through the jungle, and they had a couple of gentlemen there with the machetes that are helping us find a pathway. And we found this mahogany tree that was 300 years old, that was bent over, and you could see it was starting to kind of pull up at the roots. And mahogany grows really fast when it's got a lot of sun, and really slow when it doesn't have much. And of course the goal was to fill up that hole with 2 or 3 mahogany trees instead of the one that we were going to cut down. Trying to figure out how that tree should fall. Where can we leave the least amount of damage? How do you have that tree, when it's felled, not hit the ground and just blow up and splinter? Can you imagine being a 300-year-old tree living in that jungle? This tree stood at an angle like this. Think of the stress on that tree for 300 years. That tree was alive, that whole experience of America being a country. The whole experience is just, I don't know, there's something to me that ends up in a guitar that's creating your music.
Breedlove and Bedell has been great. Tom Bedell has been a huge mentor for us, both with sustainability and just in business in general. When we launched our Shoppe Sustainable program, we actually invited Tom Bedell down on Earth Day. He gave the keynote address at Earth Day Festival here in Springfield, where he discussed Bedell and Breedlove's efforts, what their mission is for sustainability in just the fretted instrument industry, and we were able to kind of make the big launch of the Acoustic Shoppe Sustainable mission, and that was such a thrill that Tom flew down to Springfield, Missouri to be the keynote speaker for that. And really, he came into the shop, did a clinic where again he got very passionate about why he is motivated, and it's inspirational just hearing Tom talk about it.
But for me, there's something almost spiritual about the connection between an acoustic guitar and a singer-songwriter. There's no knobs, there's no electronic things that are helping make it. If it's you playing, you singing, it's your music, it flows through you, it flows through your instrument. Together you're creating this music. I find, I don't know, to me there's something that is really, really special. If we're gonna save our planet for human habitat, we all have to make choices towards contributing to that. The reason our climate is changing so quickly right now is a lot of choices were made that in fact are threatening the habitat that really works for human beings. Musicians have a voice, people listen. Well, think of the song Imagine that John Lennon wrote. If that was just a poem, I'll bet you and I never would have heard it. But it's one of the most played songs around because it's beautiful, it's a song, it's got message, it's music. And we're trying to encourage more and more and more influencers, musicians, people to speak out about the connectivity of making music and saving the world's forests. Those two things go totally together. So our real goal at Bedell Guitars, and I think it's your goal at your store, is how can we make buying decisions that let us make great music for us, that sound great, but that also mean that tomorrow's forests are healthier than they were yesterday's. All of those things can happen at the same time.
So our long-term goal is to have every single manufacturer, and that's both in guitars and fretted instruments, but also woodwinds, percussion, all considering where they're sourcing the woods. And the good thing is they're mostly getting it from only a few mills and brokers. And if we can get those brokers on board, then the entire industry can be sustainable. And I think that's our end goal, is to make the entire industry as sustainable as possible. Tom hit the point exactly. We as musicians never stop to think, and even we as retailers, where we're getting all these beautiful instruments in, we never stop to ask that question about what impact is this having on the environment. Even if as small as it might be in the overall scheme of things, are we doing good for the environment or are we harming it? I can absolutely say without Tom Bedell and their team up there, this wouldn't have come onto our radar and we would not have launched our Shoppe Sustainable program.